So we spent a lot of time talking about how scene settings and previews are intertwined. We first go in and establish what we want the web page to look like for our customers, and we then assign that web page to our project. Of course, once you get a good layout, there's nothing stopping you from using that same layout over and over again on different projects. This is really handy when you're working with the same customer on multiple projects. For this video, we're going to talk a little more in depth about the settings found on the Scene Settings tab. We start out by closing our project preview and going back into our project and clicking on the tab that says Scene Settings. Now, since we're going to be examining what the customer will see in the web preview, I often find it helpful to first click on the tab that says Assembly and then click on the tab that says Scene Settings. You'll also notice that down at the bottom here you can change the settings for your materials in your groups, which will be handy when you're examining settings for things like shadows. We've already talked about what this first option does, previews. Next, let's talk about the options for environment. The first option says disable panning. By default, right mouse button and drag allows you to pan your project. If you hit that check mark, right mouse button and drag will do nothing. Next, the option for limit zoom and movement. By default, left mouse button and drag will allow you to rotate the model, and rolling the wheel or holding down on the middle button will allow you to zoom the project. If we check the option on for limit zoom and movement, you can see that the first option says minimum distance factor and maximum distance factor. If these are set to 0, you have unlimited range of zoom. You can zoom out as far as you like and you can zoom in as far as you like. By establishing numbers for these, you can limit how far your customer could zoom in and out. Let's say, for example, we set the minimum distance to 1 and the maximum distance to 5. Now, as I go to zoom in, this is as far as I can go, and as I go to zoom out, this is as far as I can go. I think for the speaker project, a min of 1 and a max of 2 would be a good setting. So you can see here, this is as far as I can zoom in, and this is as far as I can zoom out. Next, we've got the option for minimum and maximum vertical rotation. If these are both set to 0, then the customer will be able to left mouse button and drag and rotate all around your model. This may or may not be desired. For example, we may want to limit the ability for the customer to see what's going on the bottom of the speaker box. If that were the case, then we would want to set our maximum rotation angle to something like 90. You can see now that as I go to rotate, I cannot rotate around and see the bottom of the speaker. I think that makes sense for a project like this. Similarly, we've got options to limit the horizontal rotation angle. However, for this project, I think it makes sense to allow the customer to rotate the model all the way around. Next, we can take a look at the options for shadows and reflections. The first option, Show Floor Shadows, will begin to generate a shadow on the floor from your project. If we go down to this lower section that says Shadow Light Offset, we can adjust the position of the light relative to our project in order to get the desired result from our shadow. If we head back up to the top section, we can control the shadow opacity with the shadow darkness slider, as well as the sharpness or blurriness of the edges of the shadow with the shadow resolution slider. You'll notice towards the top of the page we also have a checkmark option for Show Body Shadows. This will allow us to include not only shadows on the floor, but shadows on the individual bodies in our project. Now once again we can adjust the lighting position until we get the desired shadow on our models. We also have a checkmark option for Bind Shadow Light to Camera. When this option is on, the shadow light remains stationary and the model turns as though it's on a turntable. When this option is unchecked and we rotate the model, you see that the shadow light rotates with the model. I think that for consumer product design, turning this option on is often a good choice because it gives our customers the ability to rotate the model and examine their parts in different lighting schemes. As we continue to adjust the lighting, we can try to get a more realistic view of our speaker box assembly. I think that what we probably want is a light coming in a little more from the front to really light up that front panel. So I'll make the appropriate adjustments Yeah, I think this thing's looking pretty good. Let's take a look at it in our preview. So we click on the little preview link down at the bottom. And as the customer goes through and chooses different materials for both the speaker panel and the wood panels, they will be able to rotate the model 180 degrees horizontally, but they'll have a limited scope of rotation vertically. In other words, they won't be able to see the bottom of the speaker box. I think this project is really starting to look good. One last option down here at the bottom, we've got the option for show reflections. This could be another way to add some realism to our project, because now we can actually see a floor and a reflection of the speaker box. Let's take a look at this in the preview window. So we click the preview window, and now we can see that the preview is showing the reflection and the floor option in our project. Now, in order to really get this thing looking good, we need to upload the remaining components, and we're going to take a look at that in the next video.